It's oink time! It's oink time, guys. Hey, please listen. Please rate it. 5 stars. Do it now. Thank you. Hello, I'm Ben Ellwood.
I'm Jen Carnovale, and with us today we have Michael Hing.
Yay! Comedian. How would you describe yourself?
I don't know, rapidly aging. I don't know. Cleanest dick on this podcast, let me tell you that. No. Oh, yeah, comedian's probably the best thing for this.
Comedian?
Yeah.
And televisual personality.
These things are adults with each other, though, obviously.
We asked Eastgate that, and he was like, it was like the simple. It's one of those questions you think is really simple. We're like, how do you describe yourself?
Yeah.
Like 15 minutes later, we were still talking about it because he's like a musician and does musical theatre, and then he's a comedian, and it can be a lot more
Do you guys,
complicated.
when you talk, not to get too far away from the unclean penis conversation, but when you guys, like, do you guys feel comfortable saying, "Oh, I'm a comedian" to people?
Now, yeah, but it took like 8 years.
Yeah, I don't like it. I do because like it's you kind of have to when people are like, oh, what do you do for work? You know, but. Yeah, I don't like it.
There's always like a self-effacing. Whenever I say it, there's always a self-effacing kind of undercutting of it, of like, oh, you know.
There's baggage. There's baggage with it.
It depends. If I did a really good set and I feel great that day, I'm like, yeah, I do comedy. Or if I've like died in the arse for the last 3 gigs, they're like, do you do comedy? I'm like, I write sometimes. It goes in waves.
I've been known to do a joke.
It's definitely I do comedy. It's never. I'm never like, oh, I'm a comedian.
Yeah,
it's like, no, I do comedy.
I think as well. Like, I would probably describe myself as a stand-up comedian more than just comedian. I don't know what this is in my brain, but it's like at least stand-up comedian. There's a very specific image of what that is. And so when you say to someone, oh, I'm a stand-up comedian, they're like, oh, I know what that is. If you say I'm a comedian, they're like, oh, what do? You dress in a hat? I don't know. Like, who knows what it could be?
Yeah.
They start thinking that you're doing really goofy shit.
Yeah, or even just like, then it's like, so this is going to sound like a humble brag. But it's like previously, it like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, 5 years ago, right? If someone would ask me if I'm a comedian, I would know that there's no way they would have ever heard of me or seen me or anything. So I would go, or they would go, what do you do? And I'd be like, I'm like, I wouldn't.
Michael Hing.
Yeah, I don't know what is that. And now it's like I can probably point to stuff that I've done that they would know about, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, I worked at a thing or I did a thing, and they're like, oh, I have no fucking idea who you are, but at least I know that thing you've done.
Yeah, you feel legitimized in some way.
Yeah, which is external validation. I require it.
We're all after that.
That's what we're all doing.
I'm exactly the same. And I hate that I get infuriated, but I do. I get infuriated by people who've done like comedy for like a month and a half, and they're like, as a comedian, like, don't talk for us. But then I look at me and I'm like, comics who've done it for 20 years probably look at me and they're like, don't talk for us. Do you ever reach that thing where you're like, I've died enough, I've done well enough, I've been booked enough? Like, is it ever?
No, I feel like there is a certain point where you can legitimately say it, and I think that point arrives when the only gigs you do aren't sign up open mic nights.
Well, there's a whole there's like a whole tail end of Sydney where people just do those nights, and I think they seem kind of content to just do it. There's like a whole crew of people I've never seen gig anywhere else.
Well, because they kill every time they get up because they're gigging in front of their friends, and so it must be very reassuring, you know.
Speaking of making it, the real test for me was when, and I say that obviously very ironically, but the real test for me was when people, speaking of mic nights, when people from like my past, like people I haven't spoken to in like 10 years. This happened like 2 or 3 times now. Those people have started doing open mics and have gotten in touch with me being like, hey, do you have any tips on how to... And I was like, like, I've been working as an accountant for 10 years and I fucking hate myself. I thought I would do comedy. And you're like,
do you have any advice? Yeah, don't do it.
How did you feel when they said they wanted to do comedy? Like, what was your initial reaction? Like, honest response?
It was like, honestly, if you are... If you're thinking about this as a way to like lose your suicidal thoughts, this is not like it's not going to help. It's fucking not going to help. If you're watching this stable job which has like parameters and a salary and like a safety net, and you might be boring or whatever, and you know you might feel guilt about working for a big accounting firm or whatever the fucking thing is, and you feel suicidal. Quitting that and then going into comedy, it's not going to solve anything.
It's going to create a whole new set of problems.
It's like, I've given up all this stuff and I'm doing this thing that I think I'll love, but at the same time, like, what? I need people, I need strangers to like me now? Something out of nowhere. You're like, fuck, this isn't going to help you.
It's such a weird transition that's happened, because I think when we all started doing this, comedy was not a very popular thing to do. You know, and
it was way smaller. In Sydney, we all knew every comedian.
Dude, remember when a new person would get up and it was like a fucking event? It was like once a month and we'd all be like, let's see this fresh meat get carved up. You know, whereas now it's like, I mean, you just can't keep up, because, I mean, I think comedy has become so popular in the zeitgeist through podcasting and through, you know, stand-up specials and all these things. And I think especially there's a certain contingent of people who really believe, because they're the funny person in the office, well, you know, I can do that. That's bloody easy. I can just say some, you know, Zoo magazine jokes on stage and kill.
Well, I was just thinking about this the other day, that, like, it's not just enough to be funny anymore. Well, sorry. There are so many funny people I know in my life who are not comedians. And there's some, I don't, this isn't like a blanket statement, but it's like, and there are so many unfunny people who are comedians. And there's like this weird skill mismatch where it's like all the funniest, like not all, but a lot of the funniest people I know, they're fine with their lives and they just go along doing whatever. And then there's all these people who I probably was one of these at one point where you're just like, well, this is what I'll do because you have no other marketable skills. You're like, well, this is it.
Well, it just makes sense. Even if you do die, it makes sense. Like people like say things like, how do you know if you should keep doing comedy? I'm like, because you keep doing comedy. And then you get better. Like you keep showing up. If you die, like I've had stints where I've like died for like friggin' 2 weeks, like at like 10 different gigs.
Lucky you.
And just felt like so shit. Oh, you know what I mean? Like you go through a phase where you're like, I'm off and I'm not connecting with the audience. I'm not remembering stuff. But then something in you is like, all right, someone will write to you and go, do you want to do this gig? And you're like, like, don't even, there is no question in my mind. Like, the worst possible gig. They're like, do you want to gig in Newcastle at a party/pub where footballers are going to be the main attraction, but you guys can do something in front of the TV? And I'm like, like, just don't even miss a beat.
Is there a chance one stranger will tell me I'm a good boy? Sure. did you guys...
You're loved!
Did you guys, before you did comedy, did either of you or both of you, like, highly value your ability to be funny? Was that something...
I still question my ability to be funny.
No, not to say... No. Of course the question's always there. But, like, you know, was being funny or... making people laugh a really important thing in your life before you started doing comedy?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember from when I was a kid, like, whether it was, like, getting bullied and deflecting attention or, like, just being able to control a situation through comedy. Or what, I don't know what it was, but always. Yeah. But then at the same time, there were always, like, people I saw in my life who were, like, quote-unquote funnier than me, who people thought were funnier than me. And I remember being like, but... hack. Like, even as like, fucking hell, this is such a shitty thing. But like, I remember being in year three, and this guy, I think his name was Adam. I can't remember his last name. This kid was in my year 3 class, and the teacher said something about, she was reading from a book, and she said something like, such and such, one of the characters was like running down the street, and she said, and he flew down the street. And he yelled out from the back of the class, like, you'd need wings for that. And everyone in the class, fuck me, everyone in the class, like, was laughing so much at this, because I remember being like, well, it's just a fucking...
That's shit.
It's so bad. What a judgmental cunt.
No, because how has anything changed? We're the same in comedy.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone gets something kills and we're all going,
it's exactly the same.
The worst guy.
It's exactly the same. I remember, like, I don't remember going, I'm funny, but I remember being like, I like making my friends laugh. Because, like, I was so socially awkward, and then when I made friends the thing that, like, brought us together was making each other laugh. So I just remember being like, this is, like, a really cool way to do things. And then that was kind of it. Like, I was like, I like doing this, so this is
Yeah.
Just kind of kept going.
Meanwhile, Ben, as a child, did you find yourself just being drawn to confronting people with their own mortality? Was that something that you just really naturally gravitated towards?
It bums me out that that's how people see me, but anyway.
Does it?
No, kind of. But anyway, being funny or having the ability to make people laugh was... I still remember the first, like, it might not have been the first revelation I ever had, but it's the first revelation I even remember having. It was in 1989. I was 7 years old watching Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yeah.
And there's the scene that still one of the greatest movies ever made, ever. If you haven't revisited it, do it. It's so good. But there's the scene where Bob Hoskins is distracting the weasels so that Roger and Jessica can escape, and he's making them laugh. And I still remember it was like a punch in the head at that age, being like, oh, if you make people laugh, you can get out of any situation. You can do anything. As long as you can make them laugh, you can get away with it. And that, served me all through my childhood. When I got to high school, it was like, you're not going to survive unless you can make people laugh, because you're like, this is like a prison situation. If you have no skill set, you have no means to physically defend yourself.
It's a prison situation.
But it is a prison situation. That's how I would survive in prison. I would get...
10-year-old Benny.
Seriously.
I would get... This is gang-like.
But don't you feel like, Michael, like if you went to prison, it's like, I reckon I would spend the first month getting the absolute shit kicked out of me. And then my plan would be make the toughest guy laugh. And once you get that guy laughing, you're just the funny bloke. And then, you know what I mean?
I don't know what this says about me, but there's just no situation in which I imagine myself in prison, Ben. I'm just not... I just don't imagine myself going to the slammer.
Prison was a big fear of mine when I was a kid.
It says a lot more about Ben.
I must have seen a movie or something when I was young, because one of my biggest pathological fears growing up was being framed for murder. Just like the profound injustice of sitting in jail for decades. It's like, I didn't do anything!
But I think you would also, like, on some, like, really primal level, really enjoy being unjustly imprisoned. And you'd be like, they're going to get it one? I'll be proven right on the vindictiveness.
The whole system's fucking corrupt.
I knew this would happen.
Sometimes I think prison would be really good. You get a lot of books written and read, you know what I mean? Like,
the funniest thing about this is, having known you for a long time... I'm going to say, you're not a planner. But it feels like you've put more planning and organisation into the possibility of you going to jail than anything else in your life.
You don't know how many times I've rehearsed the speech that I would make to my friends when I get diagnosed with terminal cancer. All I do is plan for catastrophe.
I know that because we've talked about it, it's a real downer.
Other people are writing their Oscars acceptance speeches because they want to visualise their successes, but you're like, no, I want to plan for having to tell my friends I'm going to die.
Not to go too deep into the psychological quagmire, but
I feel like we're there.
Okay, we're there. I figured out what that tendency is, and I remember when I was very young. You know that phrase, bad things happen when you least expect them.
Yeah.
So whenever my mum and my grandparents, they were the totality of my family, 3 people. Whenever they would get in a car together and go to the club or whatever, and I was at home on my own, I would just be in a state of terror of like, what happens if they have a car accident? And
you had such severe anxiety for like a 5-year-old.
I was raised by Holocaust survivors, So I think that fucks you in the head a bit.
It does have a knock-on.
It has a knock-on
intergenerational anxiety.
Yeah. Or, genetic memory or some shit. But anyway, so I would always be terrified of the 3 of them dying at once. And so I remember at that time thinking, well, if they say bad things only happen when you least expect them. If you expect bad things to happen all the time, then nothing bad will ever happen.
You found a loophole there.
Found a little loophole with God. But what it does is it creates a fucking ball of just vicious anxiety that's always thinking, oh my God, that lightning strike's going to hit me and that brick's going to fall on my head. And
we've talked about it. The pessimist is the failed optimist.
Or the cynic is the disappointed optimist. Yeah, agreed.
There's one of those philosophers, I think it's Seneca or one of them, is like, if you are constantly expecting the worst of any situation, then you'll actually be happier in the long term.
I think so.
You will not,
I think so.
Rather, because you'll never be disappointed, because it's like, oh, well, I wasn't murdered today. Things are looking up for Seneca,
That's a real low bar.
I don't actually think it is, because I think if you can actually get past the point where and this is something that's only happened in the last few years as I'm going to my, mid-30s, where the fever pitch of the anxiety is not as loud as it once was. So it's not like it's all this all-consuming fear and when I was in my 20s, I was useless because I couldn't think a thought without undermining it. Whereas now, it's almost like that initial thing of bad things happen when you least expect them has turned into, yeah, man, something bad is going to happen.
Yeah.
On a long enough timescale, something terrible. Well, it's true. Something terrible will happen.
It's just like,
either someone you love will die.
Your life like this is not an appealing.
I'm actually very happy, but
I'm actually very happy.
Very happy.
Don't you know this?
Yeah, but it almost feels like you get to that point where it's like, yeah, something bad is going to happen, but you know what? Something bad's not happening right now. So, hey, let's cherish this moment right now. Whereas in the past, I would have undermined that.
Speaking of right now, not to interrupt, but can we move to the hat?
Oh, let's go to the hat.
So, Hing, we've got a hat. It's a very fancy hat.
Yeah.
We're going to shake it, and if you could pick a word out of it, that would be
Whatever
amazing.
first comes to your mind based on this word.
All right. So the word I've picked out is danger.
Danger.
It's kind of feeding into what we were just talking about.
Yeah. I don't live a particularly dangerous life. I'm quite risk averse, to be honest. But I'll probably tell you a story about the most dangerous.
What are you talking about? I know fucking you.
Well,
in your youth, you did
that's-
quite dangerous things.
Yeah. This is
Like, that's another Hing.
Yeah,
that's Hing of 20 years ago.
Yeah, I'm in my 30s now, man. No, I wasn't going to tell that story. I was going to tell a different story. Which is about 6 years ago now. No, about 9 years ago now. I was convinced by my brother to go helicopter skiing in Japan when we were over there.
Helicopter skiing.
Which is like you jump out of the helicopter onto the mountain and you ski down.
Sounds safe.
Yeah, it's so chill, dudes. It's so chill.
Did you ski a lot before this?
Yeah, I'd skied quite a bit. This was like by some margin the next level of shit that I'd never.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jumping out of a helicopter.
Yeah.
James Bond.
And like my brother's like quite a bit better than me. He's 4 years older than me. He's like a much more put together person. And he just told me, oh yeah, we're gonna do this, and we were going up not as so there's like safe ways to do it where you like book a tour or whatever. But he'd met some dudes on the slope, this European crew of dudes who were working on the mountain, and they were like clearing snow because of a storm, and they were doing that thing where they clear snow for avalanches.
Yeah.
And so we were going up for basically, I think it was like either free or very, very cheap. Yeah. So this was also a bargain.
Sounds safe. Sounds promising.
So we went up there and it was so terrifying the whole time. I'm a scared individual, and then I'm in this helicopter, and there's all these like big dudes, and they're like, and they're all like they're all like in there. You know, like when you go, well, I don't know, if you go to the snow and you see people in those one piece like. Very trimmed suits, you know?
The speed suit.
Yeah, the speed, and you're like, fuck, and these guys are doing that, and they had like, the guy was showing me his pack before he goes, he had some dynamite to clear the mountain, which I don't think he meant to use anymore, but he had that.
It's just like out of a cartoon.
And he had dynamite. He had a saw in his back, and I don't know what the saw was for. And he goes, oh, it's in case we get trapped out there, we need to be able to saw blocks of ice to make an igloo. And I was like, lol, like, what? That's crazy. And he's like, yeah, that's a joke. It's actually for if you get caught in a rock and you just saw off your arm. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Oh my God.
And I think these people like knew I was scared, so were like toying with me. I think they knew I was, anyway.
Yeah, they're trying to test you.
Yeah. And this was in 2009, so I would have been like 24 or something, right?
Oh my God.
So just terrified adult. So then we get up on the mountain and you just see this vast mountainscapes, and like I don't even know how long I spent in the chopper, but like
I can't believe you went in a chopper.
It's like
snowboarding.
He's not just in a chopper; he's in a chopper with a man's limb severing saw and dynamite.
And so the actual jumping out of the helicopter isn't that terrifying because they lower you enough. The jump itself out of the helicopter is not. It's not that because you see like 3 or 4 people go, and then you're only a couple of meters off the snow, but also the snow's like I don't know 2 meters, 3 meters deep, so it's really soft. So you see the other people land and go, and it's
powder.
So the jumping out wasn't that bad, but then you see like once you jump out. There's like nowhere to stop. Like you can't stop because it's this steep mountain and everyone's just going, right? So, And
oh my god!
And so you're not like you're falling down a mountain through powder. Like it's just, and there's no you can't because the powder's so thick you can't stop. If you stop, you'll just sink and then you'll be swallowed up. Yeah, exactly. So you see these people just jump out and.
I can't believe you did that.
Well, so we're in this chopper, and I see the first guys jump out, and I have... This is, like, how fucking, like, tame my life has been, but I have flashbacks of, like, you know, in every war movie ever, when they're about to jump out of the plane, and everyone's like, tell my wife, like...
Michael Hing skiing on the Alpine slopes is your nom.
Yeah, exactly. It's so fucking lame. So meanwhile, I'm there being like, oh, yes, this is true bravery. Like, fucking...
Oh, my God.
Fucking so you see these guys jump out, and it's my turn, and I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna do this, So I jump, and as I jump, I like just terrified, lose balance, and then I'm like falling out of the plane. I managed to land into the snow, and then suddenly I'm like trying to stop, but like I said, there's nowhere to stop because it's just powder you're falling through. So I'm trying to now like just kind of move my body towards a rock or something, or a tree or something I can just grab onto, just to hold onto.
It doesn't sound like a safe plan either.
Yeah.
I'm trying to move at a high speed down a mountain towards a rock or tree.
Yeah, but can I actually just interrupt for 1 second? In all of this, was your embarrassment of your inability to not be able to do it overriding your fear? Or was that
Yeah, because you did it.
No, cool. Well, I had spent the whole trip... This is like speaking of the defense mechanism. I'd spent the whole flight, like the whole ride over there, I've been saying to everyone, oh, I don't deserve to be here, like sort of cracking jokes and being like, oh, God. And so in order to try and deflect the anxiety I was feeling, I was making jokes about it, but that had like put in my mind, oh, you're going to fail at this. Even though like, if I had to do it again today, this is like, again, it's easy to say on the ground, but I'm like, I reckon I could do it now. But like, at the time, I'd worked myself into such a state that I couldn't.
I do that with gigs.
Yeah.
Before a gig, I'm going to suck. Oh,
so anyway, so one of the guys looks up at me and sees that I'm like struggling a bit. So he points across to the bowl of the mountain. So when there are mountains around in a curve like that they call the inner ring of it the bowl. And he's like, let's go. He's like pointing across the bowl. So if you kind of go across the mountain, you're not accruing as much speed, right?
Yeah, you're slowing down and you're going... Yeah.
So he's pointing us over that way, and so we all kind of go around there, and we get to this sort of ridge, and he says, and he goes, all right, this is where we're trying to clear snow. And this French guy, it's like, even just telling this, I haven't actually thought about this in years, but like, I saw him light a stick of dynamite with his cigarette, which is like the most French thing I've ever seen a man do. He's like, and he just like tosses it like over there, and it got this huge explosion, and all this snow like drops. 30 meters, but it's just dropping on the other side of the bowl, right? And like we've probably been out for like half an hour at this point. We've been on the mountain for like half an hour. And one of the guys gets on his radio, I think like the storm's coming in.
Oh my God.
And the worry about being, well, I'm not an expert on these things, but the guy was saying to us, the worry is if you're stuck in the bowl of a mountain, when a storm comes in, the snow collects inside the bowl, as opposed to when you're on the face of the mountain, like the other side of the mountain, the ridge, where the surface area means it doesn't get trapped. But if you're inside the bowl, and he's like, look, this is kind of dangerous. We need to like ski around. We need to ski around the bowl to the other side in order to like get out of the So now we're just so now we're like trekking around. Fuck. Just like, this is fucking crazy. And so the other thing is like, if you're going across, you're going at the slower speed, so you're having to like, but you still need to go down a little bit in order to get any amount of speed. So now we're racing against this storm that's coming in, and it takes us about an hour to get around the other side of the bowl. But by the time we get in there, the storm is like the snowstorm is so bad that we can't see like 3 feet in front of us. And so all the guy is like saying to us, "All right, guys, like this is like fucking like the reason they were there to clear the snow is because they knew the storm was coming." But like Chris and I just hadn't thought about this, like hadn't put all this together. So now we have to what's the word, hammer into the rock faces that we're finding and like link in like ropes to carabiner. Like, and again, I'm useless in this situation. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. But like these guys like experienced professionals.
Are you shitting yourself at this stage?
Well, they're like, what's this Australian guy doing? You're like, I want to do it, I just don't know what I'm doing.
Just help me. Like, I'm actually really good at following instructions, so you just tell me what to do. I'm actually very good at listening. I'm a quick learner.
Just let me know and then I won't die. Like, just...
like, I think I was calmed down by the fact that these guys didn't seem too stressed.
Yeah.
Also, you'd have like an adrenaline dump by then where your body would just be like, okay.
Yeah.
I also think in those situations of like ultimate danger, there's almost like a kind of primal animal part of your brain that just starts laying down tracks, and it's like, okay,
this
we
is
need
how
to
I get out.
of this situation now, and we will feel the fear later.
Oh, it's like minus 20 or whatever. Like, it's crazy cold, but like you're rubbed up, so you don't really feel it. Like I'm wearing a balaclava and everything, like all the gear.
Oh,
like I think I had like maybe like a centimetre of exposed skin underneath my goggles or something. Like, it wasn't,
Yeah.
So we're like carabing, I don't know if that's the right word, but like hammering into the rock faces, and there's like 8 of us, 6 or 8 of us, just like in this like huddle, like holding onto each other. There's ropes, there's like, there's like zip lines and whatever. Oh, not zip lines. There's like ropes, and we're tied in. We're anchored to a tree, and then we're just like huddling, waiting for the storm to pass. And as the snow begins to rise around us, we're having to like take off our skis, because obviously if the snow gets on top of your skis,
you can't get out.
You're fucked, right?
Yeah.
And so we're having to like hold our skis, and then we have to tie them to the top of these trees, which are all like, and the snow's already like 2 feet tall, and we're having to like climb up these fucking, anyway, it was fucking crazy. And so we're there for about maybe an hour and a half or something, just like waiting for this thing to, and then it begins to,
No, at any point in that time, did you think you were going to die?
I thought about it, but like,
there
were people that ask. There were people that asked, I was like, are we going to die? And they're like, no, we should be. Like, they were calming me down. Because I think the other thing is they realise that, like, they've got this fucking idiot with them. And he's the guy who's going to get us all killed. Like, if anyone's going to, like...
This fucking dead weight.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and again, to make an offensive analogy to a war movie, like, oh, God, he's not here now. Like, I'm just, fucking blown through them. That was me. And then they like... So the storm eventually like begins to pass away, and I'm just like freaking out. And I said, like, hey, let's just fucking go. And they're like, no, you can't. Like, they're like, no, we have to wait like time to make sure it's gone, because if we leave here and it starts up again, like, we're fucked. And so that was when I started like really panicking, because I just wanted to get out of there. And they're like, no, you gotta stay. And so my brother at this point is like having to like physically hold me down, and like anyway, obviously everyone was fine. There's not really a punchline to that story or anything. We're fine. We got out eventually.
There was no death or anything. So
no, we skied around to the bottom of the mountain, and there was a shuttle bus. Like,
did you feel like more alive than you'd ever felt after that, or was it just kind of like...
this is so... I remember at the time I was like... I just started dating. I'd been away for a month, but just before I'd left, I'd sort of like started dating someone. And we'd been emailing each other back and forth. This is like 2009, so we were like emailing each other back and forth, and like I remember like that night I was like sitting here and I was telling this whole story of this email, and I was like, should I see if she wants to marry me? Yeah, this is like the time. I'm ready. Like, we know.
Seize the dirt.
Yeah, like, and in retrospect, I'm like, I wonder if that was the adrenaline, Michael.
Yeah, fuck.
Just do it, man. Just do it. Just tell her.
And that French guy's like, what happened to that kid? He's like, got married. He's got tattoos everywhere. He's just living the dream.
I think that night actually ended up going to like those like onsens, like where it's
I love onsen.
It's like a naked bath. It's like a public bath in Japan, but you're totally naked. And I just remember like sitting in this like public bath, like surrounded by like old Japanese men, and just being like, yes, the coming onsen after the trauma. This was entirely your, like, you made all of these choices, Michael. You did not.
Fuck, that's crazy. Did either of you guys go through that? Like a lot of the guys I went to high school with, they went through that very kind of cliched, like, I'm invincible stage.
No.
Is it a masculine? This is a male thing? I feel like
it's definitely a male thing.
It's definitely, that's what...
Because, I went to a co-ed school, but I went to a performing arts co-ed school, so I feel like it's a bit different. There wasn't that. I mean, there's, like, people trying to show that they were, like, ultra-masculine, but I don't think there is a female equivalent... Or if there is, I mean, I can't speak for every female. For me, there definitely wasn't. I was a very nerdy, polite child.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, people like 15 are like, you go to the party, and I'm like, I don't know, I've got ballet from 9 till 5, so... Like,
Yeah, it's so funny, because, like, I mean... It occurred to me about 15, 16, like, my male Northern Beaches friends have no fear of... death or destruction or It's like I couldn't understand how they couldn't fail to understand how fragile
cognitive development.
Yeah, I remember being 15, 16 doing crazy shit that I would never do.
Your brain's not there yet. You can't see around a corner.
I wasn't like that.
You were literally raised by Holocaust survivors.
You were at like a 5-year-old, planning your prison speech. You're a bit different.
Yeah.
But it was just amazing to me. Like, we'd be in cars, driving 120 kilometers down a freeway, swerving, fucking.
Did you ever learn to? Do you know how to drive? Did you learn to drive?
I think it's a good thing.
A big part.
I think it's actually a very good thing.
A big part of me overcoming a lot of anxiety and fear was driving, because I got my license quite late. I was probably 21, 22.
Me too.
Because of the sense of control.
Well, not just that, but it's like every day you get into this car, and every day you hear about people dying on the roads, but you do it every day. And for me, it was like, oh well, if I'm not gonna. If I've been driving for a year and a half and I haven't killed myself,
Yeah, of course.
These are okay.
Yeah. I was never like properly afraid of flying, but like the more I fly now, the more I think, like, as an adult, the more I think, like, oh, yeah, well, I hear about people dying all the time, and I haven't done it, so, like, maybe, I don't know, it doesn't make sense, but I'm like, maybe this is, you're exposing yourself to things you're afraid of, but you're not dying, so, like...
But you also
have to... like, if you think you have an allergy, and then like, keep eating peanuts.
Exposure therapy.
But it is, but I mean, it does help to have that statistical... like I was in a plane recently, and I do not.
You're terrified of flying.
I don't like flying out. I'm a lot better than I was.
I like flying.
But I do on a plane, very similar to what you were talking about with that skiing thing, where I'll feel fine, and then I'm sitting in the lounge just going like, oh, this is, the reason you're feeling calm is because somewhere in the psychic noonsphere you know that this is it, and it's your physiology is telling you to stay calm because you actually are going to die on this flight. And then
on a plane, I take comfort in the fact where it's like I have no control.
See, I don't.
So if it goes down, we're all going
down.
And more often than not, you like pass out from shock before you hit the ground anyway.
You think so? I think you're alive the whole way down. I think
that's because you're like into it. You are into it. You're like fetishize it in a weird way.
You know that thing you hear about, like, I don't know if this is something I've imagined, but you hear about people jerking off.
Just as they're going down.
As
how could you get a hard on as you're going down?
This is what I mean.
Where is there recordings of people like, ladies and gentlemen, we're going down, and like people just whipping it out?
Well, this is the thing. I don't know if it's real.
As they go down.
Yeah, well, fucking. What does it say about me though? You're like, people fucking. I'm like, no, solitary. I don't want to fucking strangers. They might not be clean.
I
don't want human contact as I'm dying.
Yeah, like, I'll just pleasure myself as I plummet to my death. He died as he lived. Oh my goodness.
If you guys could put yourself in a situation where you got in a plane,
here we go.
You agree to this scenario, and then your memory is wiped of ever agreeing to it. So when it happens, it feels like it's happening for real.
Right.
Would you agree to put yourself in a situation where you were on a plane and a scenario was created where
you felt like you were going to die.
Down to the last second, you were convinced that this plane was going to plow into the ground, and then it levels out and it's all fine. Would you agree to having that experience?
No.
Just to know what you would feel like in that moment?
No,
I don't. No.
I don't need to feel horror to know that I don't like horror.
But don't you know?
I didn't even watch Cloverfield, man.
I like cry in ads. Like, I don't need to test the boundaries. But wouldn't it be interesting to know
what it's like, what in the final analysis, what your head would do, or how you would... I would like to think that in the final analysis, if it was really happening...
That some kind
of... then you really wish that the plane had crashed. But I would like to think that some kind of calm or zen would take over.
Yeah.
Whether or not that's true, I don't know.
But what if, like... I mean... What if your final thought was just something horrific?
Yeah.
And then you wake up the next day and you're like, well, I know what my final thought is.
Yeah, and you have to live with it.
Yeah, you're like, well, I've got to kill my mother now. Well, I didn't want to do that, but here we are. Like, it's just,
I don't feel like that would serve me in any positive way going through life from that moment on. Yeah. I feel like I'd probably have severe anxiety and not function as a human. So no.
Do you go on roller coasters?
Not really.
Yes, I love
I used to when I was younger.
I quite like a roller coaster. Yeah.
I don't feel the need to now. I don't know.
They make me sick now as I get older. I get quite ill on them now.
But you still do it, or?
Well, yeah, I was at Luna Park a few weeks ago, and I, against my better judgment, got on the pirate ship. And I think if it had rotated 2 or 3 more times, everyone would have been covered in chocolate.
What was the idea of Ben Ellwood at a theme park is infinitely amusing to me.
He loves them.
What was the scenario? Did you go by yourself? Were you there with friends?
I went with family, friends, and a few kids. So
the idea of you just going to Luna Park just by yourself,
on my own, just as Pennywise the clown,
just on the pirate ship, just continually going around.
Speaking, no, you go.
I was going to say, I feel like with the danger thing, as the older I get, because like mini dangers, because you were saying you don't put yourself in danger a lot.
Yeah.
But like with mini dangers, I guess, maybe not the right word, maybe it's a stretch, but I feel like I put myself in less of a position nowadays than I would when I was younger because I don't care.
What's an example of something you would do that you don't do anymore?
Even like 5 years ago, if I was with mates and I was like at Luna Park, I don't know why we'd be there, hanging with Ben, and they'd like, go on the roller coaster. Part of me would be like, yeah, I should do it. Like, I should do it.
Just to have a new experience or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, and now I'm kind of like, no, I don't want to. And I'm totally fine with that. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel the need to push certain boundaries within myself. But then there's other things that I would like to be more adventurous in, but they're very like domestic and older lady-ish.
So you know those what is it? There are like 5 big attributes to a personality, and one of them is openness, right? And it's like there's a correlation between like wanting to go on roller coasters and like wanting to have new experiences and going bungee jumping and stuff, and also like wanting to try like new foods and stuff. Do you find yourself being more conservative in that respect as you grow older as well?
Not with everything,
no.
Because I'm far more adventurous with other things. Like, I mean, any type of food I'll try once, and then
it's just specifically with things that could feasibly kill you.
Kind of. I think it's like that thing of like as you get older, you see danger more because you're more exposed to it. I know quite a few people who were not scared of flying, and then they hit their 30s and they get a little bit older and a fear kicks in. They can still function and go on a plane, but that happens quite a lot. And it's not that I see danger in going on the roller coaster. It's more that I feel like, do I want to go on a roller coaster, or do I want to try this amazing ramen joint and have food I've never had? I'm going to the ramen joint.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, whereas back in the day, people were like, no, it'd be really fun. I'd be like, okay, no, I don't care.
I think it comes down to also what your personal kind of tastes are, and like I have a lot of fear of I'm not like you, Jen, where you love going to different countries and traveling, and my mum's very much the
I
same.
like being uncomfortable in that sense. Not uncomfortable, but completely foreign setting.
My mum is
I'm very happy
fucking
there.
amazing. Like she she goes to Cuba and Mexico and Brazil on her own, and just and people are like, you're insane, what are you doing? You're 5 foot tall, 65-year-old lady. It's like, oh, back off. And she just goes and does it. She went to New Orleans for 2 weeks on her own. She's getting fucked up with people that she's never met. Such a spirit of adventure. And whenever, I don't push my anxieties on her at all. But anytime we've discussed potential danger or anything, she's just been like, oh, fuck it. If it happens, it happens. I'm fine with that.
You've been incredibly stressed about your mum being on a holiday that she doesn't care about.
I'm like, I haven't heard from her for 2 days. Is she fucking alive?
Yeah, he's been freaked out by it because that's your danger.
Yeah. But, I can go into bushland completely unaided, with no map, with like a 300ml bottle of water.
See, that is not a safe
I know,
choice.
and I know, but I understand, and logically I know that.
Yeah.
But it's like almost this weird, like it's a weird kind of almost spiritual belief of like, I have so much respect and reverence for nature that nature.
There's no way a bear would kill me.
There's no way. Well, there's no way that nature would.
I would simply tell the bear that we are one.
But it's also that thing of like, there's a part of my head where it's like, well, similar to my mum, where it's like, well, yeah, if something happens, it just happens. Yeah. And it's not like, like if I was in New Orleans and I got fucking mugged in the street, that to me would be this ultimate injustice. If I was walking through the bush and a snake bit me, it's like, well, that's just nature. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not malicious. Yeah. It's just a weird quirk of the head. Did I tell you what happened to me in Terrigal a few weeks ago?
No.
So I went, I've got this secret place in Terrigal. Me and Mum go there like twice a year. And it's, so there's like this shoreline with rocks, and if you trek over the rocks for a good 25 minutes around this kind of bend, there's this, it's like this beautiful oasis, this rock pool and overhanging, sandstone. It's fucking beautiful. And you can really believe that humanity has been wiped off the face of the earth and it's just you and the ocean and everything. And so I go to this place, and again, it's quite dangerous getting there. There's like a lot of leaping and jumping and climbing and stuff, and again, there's just no fear. And the only time I've ever had fear, I was unable to do it. Like, I couldn't make the jumps because I was so scared of my ankle snapping or something. Yeah. And because you're so isolated, if you twist your ankle there, it's you're not going to die, but it's going to be rough.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I get to this OA, and it was like a beautiful day, rock pool. I take all my clothes off, so I'm butt naked, and I'm like in prime kind of like,
with
nature.
Your mum?
No, mum can't make this climb. No, mum.
Oh, you did say with your mum.
No, we go to Terrigal together. I go to this secret place.
Oh, you go naked on your own?
Yeah, I don't hang out naked with my mum.
Look, we're all different.
Yeah, I know. So, there's this like beautiful rock pool with corals and everything, and it was stinking fucking hot. So I'm like butt naked, and I slide into this rock pool, and something kind of just goes like nip on my toes.
Oh god!
But I'm like, it's fine. It's a sea anemone. It's just a sea anemone. Nature would never hurt me. Because whenever I go there, I take like a plastic bag and I'm picking up rubbish on the way. And I'm like, this is my.
Surely a guy would recognise my good deeds.
Yeah. Nature would know that I'm part of nature. So I ignore this thing and I slide all the way in. And seriously, it happened in the space of about 2 seconds. This fucking tentacle goes like wraps around my thigh. Another tentacle like that around my chest.
Oh.
And you can feel every individual sucker when they're on you. Like
yeah, I bet.
all over you. And it's angry.
So wait, was octopus?
It was a fucking octopus.
Fuck. How big was it?
Listen, so I shoot. Honestly, it was like being attacked by Cthulhu. It was like the most fucked up. Like, it was fucked. And like, I've been attacked by, when I was 17, I got attacked by a German Shepherd, and that was very different. I think when you're attacked by a vicious animal, there's something in you. Me personally, I just went limp, and I kind of was in shock, and it didn't even hurt. But with this, it was just this instantaneous, just shot out of the water, and the noises kind of just like screaming and like thrashing around, like, get this fucking thing off me. Because it's so alien and it's so strange. Foreign. And then, so it comes off me and I'm like looking at it and you can't really see because the water's all rippling and everything, but it's flaring out. It's fucking angry.
And it's huge.
It was medium sized. Its head was probably the size of my chest.
Yeah, right.
So it's big. Its tentacles were around me.
Fucking hell.
So all of a sudden I'm like kind of like giddy and like laughing a bit, like freaked out, and then it suddenly hits me. It's like,
if it's a blue ring, you're dead.
I've got like 20 minutes. I'm going to die.
But did you feel stinging or anything?
No, I didn't feel anything. But at the same time, I'm like, you better fucking act, man. Like, gather your shit and start heading for the fucking...
And stay calm.
Yeah, and that was the other thing. It was like, you can't allow yourself to freak out because your blood's going to start pumping faster. The toxin's going to go through quicker. And I was fairly confident it wasn't. But at the same time, don't fuck around. Go. So it's a good 25 minutes climbing over these rocks, and I'm like, just breathe, it's all good. And about halfway through, there's this flat area of ground, and there's this, like, crusty old, like, 75-year-old Australian man fishing.
Nice.
It's like, those, like, real crusty Aussie dudes. And so I beeline towards him, and I'm like, excuse me, sir, do you know anything about octopuses? And he immediately is just like, what happened? And I tell him, and he tells me he used to be a paramedic, and he, at one stage, a person that he got called out to see died of blue ring octopus stings. Yeah. He's like, your lip's numb. I'm like, no, not yet. And he's like, how long ago did it happen? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like freaking out. Fuck. And then this is the most Australian thing anyone's ever said to me. He points up at the ridge, and he goes, you see that fucking ridge? So I'm like, yeah. And he goes, if you can get to the top of that without being dead, you should be all right, mate. And, obviously I'm fine, but it was like, you know, but I think that's where, like, it's what I was talking about before, like, all those anxieties about flying and getting in cars and all these things, and it's so funny that in a different context I can completely remove that sense of danger, where it's like, well, it's just as fucking...
It's insane.
Yeah.
To think it's like almost more insane because danger is, like, everywhere in nature, in Australia.
I know,
like,
but
we're in a country where there's just endless amounts of ways for you to die.
But post that, I do not shake that. It's so, like, I recently went into the National Forest with my best friend, and, we got a bit wasted, and, all of a sudden it occurred to us, oh my God, the sun's going down in 2 hours and we don't really know where we are. We got to get the fuck, like we got to race against time now because if the sun goes down, we're fucked. But at no point was there any nervousness or anxiety. It was like, it's fine. You know, if worse comes to worse, the trees will part and show us the way out.
Yes, that's so fun.
Like, we'll be our guy.
Oh, you fucking hippie.
Have I told you guys about speaking of danger, I've been trying to do this as material, but it hasn't really clicked yet.
Okay.
But I've been talking about... Yeah, is this funny, you guys? No, I mean, about all the fucking... Like the death threats and the white supremacy and all the shit that goes on in the internet comments. Have I told you about this?
No, but...
So like, because for my job I make videos for the internet, and because like on the internet people are just like fucking
insane,
cruel,
well, and unstable.
Yeah, but it's and on some level it's like part of the job. But I remember when I first started working in this kind of internet video kind of world.
Yeah,
Like, one of the first things I put up, I remember just getting, like, these fucking comments that were like, this gook should fucking go to the chambers, and, like, just, like, crazy shit. Just, like, you know, we need to, like, we should have lynched the Asian. Like, just...
Crazy shit.
Just, but there was one in particular that was, like, there was just, like, 3 or 4 comments, but there was one in particular that was, like, Michael Hing needs to... kill himself. It was like something like Michael Hing needs to do us all a favour and kill himself or something, right? It was really plain, really like whatever.
Just clear message.
And I remember,
advice.
Yeah, and I remember
advice.
I remember thinking to myself, like, this is just like, it's so like the video was about like it was about Minecraft or something. Like it was a fucking
it's not offensive.
Yeah, it wasn't like it wasn't a political thing. There was no reason, and people were just like fucking this. And I remember like thinking it was so funny that these people wanted to like. Hurt me for that I screen capped it, I screenshotted it, and then I printed it out.
Yeah.
And then I, like, on my desk at work, I just had this A4 piece of paper that just said Michael Hing should do us all a favour and kill himself. Because I thought it was like, I don't know, it's just like me trying to own that. I thought it was funny, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
of course.
It's just me laughing in the face of death or whatever. But like, I was working at the ABC, so it's just like, you know, there's just like, there's like people who aren't comedy people there. There's just like accountants walking by.
Oh, yeah, where they're like, wow, that guy has really...
Yeah, it's a workplace. It's a workplace where it's like, you know, and then there was this like, my boss came by one day and like saw it and was like, Michael, you can't
have that there.
You can't have that on your desk. Like, you can't have that on your wall. Like, it's just upsetting for everyone else to look at. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. And I took it down, but like, because it's like a suicide thing, they've got to do all their like due diligence for it. So I had this big meeting with like, it was like my boss and like a counsellor and like her. Like it was like 5 people or 4 people in this room.
Oh my god, I haven't heard this before.
And the counsellor was like, so this person said that you should kill yourself. Like, how does that make you feel?
Oh, come on.
And I was like, look, it's obviously not great to hear, but at the same time, you're in the media. I'm sure everyone is getting these. It's fine, like whatever.
Yeah,
and she was like, "Do you want to kill yourself?" I'm like, "No." And she's like, "Are you having suicidal thoughts?" I'm like, "No." And after like 40 minutes, she was like, "Are you having suicidal thoughts?" I was like, "Fucking, now that I've been thinking about it for 40 minutes, like this is
maybe
this is the close." And then she goes, so that comment telling you to kill yourself, like it hasn't. We need to be really careful. This hasn't given you any suicide. And I was like, no. It hasn't made you... And then she's like, all right, what about these? And she pulled out a fucking folder. Like a dossier. And like emails I hadn't even seen.
Wow.
Of like all these other comments that I hadn't even seen. And there was this one...
Was she keeping a file of it?
Yeah, well, because they must have gone through and like screen capped them all and printed them all out. And also because there was an email address people would just send shit to, being like, this fucking,
And I guess to keep track in case someone is a psycho.
Yeah,
most of them are, but like a straight up psycho.
Well, there was like crazy shit in there, but it's like, it's not... because I'm special, it's because like literally anyone
everyone gets psychotic stuff on the internet.
And there was one in particular I remember that was like a guy wrote in, like he would have been, I don't know, I assume these are all like 15-year-olds, like they're all like kids or whatever, but this one person had written in being like, Michael Hing, I want to invent a time machine so Michael Hing can go back in time to Auschwitz and check himself in and gas himself. And I was like, what?
That's how it happened. People gas themselves.
Voluntarily.
Yeah,
it's a hotel.
Yeah, the Auschwitz Spa and Resort.
You said it, and I'm like, yes, because
Christ.
if I could control time, if I could control the fabric of time, that is what I would do. I would go to, and I'd be like, oh yes, I have a reservation. Are you expecting me? Like, it's fucking insane.
You wouldn't travel back in time to kill Hitler. You would travel back in time to kill yourself.
Yeah, would you kill baby Hitler, or would you trick yourself
That's
in?
fucking insane.
Yeah. Anyway,
why do you think people do that? Because like there's a few theories that come up with me and my friends about like people being dissatisfied in terms of what they can achieve, young men in particular, not feeling like men anymore because a lot of their traditional stuff, I know this is a slippery slope.
No,
a lot of the traditional stuff has disappeared and feeling dissatisfied and feeling out of control. So what do you think is like propelling people?
I don't even think it's that complicated. I think that we all have hateful, disdainful thoughts that flit through our heads all day.
I've never felt the need to write someone should die.
It's a very male thing.
Yeah. But this is what I'm saying. I think
you're like, that's a guy.
That's what I'm saying. I think that a lot of these people, what's going on is there's no pause between our thought and expressing that thought. Instead of just identifying it as mental detritus. And it happens to us all the time. You know, like, there's so many times I'm watching, whatever, a show or a comic or something, and in my head I'm like, what a fucking piece of shit. Fuck this cunt. But, you know, whatever.
Yeah, you're like, I hate that person.
Yeah, but I'm not going to... Like, I've never written an internet comment on anything. But anything. Like, not even like, oh, that was really good. It's like, really? Like, it's just a giant... You know what I imagine with internet comments? There's a great... I rarely refer to Simpsons gags, but I always think about this about internet comments. It's the episode where Marge gets a job at the nuclear power plant. She's writing like a form out or something, and Homer comes along and he's like, forget about that, and he just rolls it up and puts it in a pneumatic air suit. And it goes up a pipe. And she's like, where does the pipe go? And he's like, don't worry, baby, the pipe will sort it out. And the pipe goes like zigzagging for 30 seconds, then it just spits the message out into a giant garbage dump.
Yeah,
and that's what I imagine every internet comment. It's just this, this vortex, it's the Grand Canyon, and it's all just piling, it's just shouting into the void. It's nothing.
But why are people so angry that they're threatening to
because
kill people?
We're living on a fucking...
From a video.
Because there's no purpose, there's no, like... I think we're going through a massive kind of, like, consciousness shift where traditional roles don't exist anymore. People are trying to figure out new roles, and there's this interim period where there's just... People don't know who or what they are.
Threatening people.
But I think, though, that, like... I mean, I imagine a lot of the people sending these things are young.
Yeah.
When they're, like, probably 13 to 15. Like, they're high school, and they probably don't necessarily... think that they actually... They probably feel powerless, and they don't feel like their words could actually hurt anyone.
Yeah, they don't realise the weight of...
Yeah, and, like, to be honest, like, it doesn't really affect me that much. Like,
no,
I also know that I feel safe in my life. So if I wasn't the person I am, I could imagine it being far more full,
Well, put it this way, I've had messages from a creepy guy. It actually started with him wanting to pursue comedy, and he's like, I know someone you went to high school with, and I was friends with his sisters. I'd shown Ben the messages, but basically it started as something really innocent where I was like, I can help you.
Yeah.
And then it went to me going, I'm not going to help you. I feel like I've tried to help you enough. Please don't contact me again. Because he wrote something a bit gross, and I was like, I'm just going to cut it off now.
Yeah.
Because I don't know or care about you. And then, as a result, I got back like 6 messages over a few weeks, but a few of them were like, it was like him trying different angles. So one was that I'm a horrible person. The next was that he's a horrible person, he's going to kill himself and I should feel bad for him. The next was this, the next was that, the next was this. And I did feel, and they weren't even outright like, I'm going to kill you, because I would have been like, fuck you, I'm going to send this to all of your family, because I know who they are. Yeah. But it was more really unsettling for me, to the point where when we would go to comedy nights, the nights that I'd suggested he could go to try comedy, like a sign-up if I want to try something new, in the back of my head, I'd be like, oh, okay, if he's here, I feel safe because I'm surrounded by a shit ton of male comedians that I'm friends with that I trust.
Yeah.
But if I was here without them, I would not feel safe. And that wasn't even a direct threat. That was just like a psycho guy who was dumping all his weird mental illness on me.
I think that's more dangerous than what you described, Michael.
Yeah.
Because I think something like that could actually carry through with something
dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, my point was, like, I guess it's true that they're young, but sometimes it's like, it's the specifics of maybe if you were a female, it would be different.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or if you were younger, maybe if you were like in your 20s and this opportunity came up. Or if you were older, if you were a guy in your 50s or 60s. I don't know, I just feel like there's so many factors that can affect how troubling some of that stuff can be.
One of the things I've that would be. I can't even imagine what it would be like to So that sounds fucking awful.
It's weird and gross.
Yeah, but I can. The one thing I have noticed is like on all these comments I get. Not that I get, I don't want to make it out like I constantly get, but on the occasional one that I get.
No, but whenever you're in the public, you will get.
It's just part of it. Unfortunately, it's just part of the job. But on social media and on YouTube and stuff, you can. It's linked to their profile.
Yeah, I know.
And these are real people with jobs or they're in school or whatever. And on occasion, I've clicked on their thing and you can see who they are. And then invariably, you look at it and you're like, oh, well, you're obviously really angry and this isn't about me at all. This is, Whereas that thing that you're talking about, it's yes, that person is unfulfilled and yes, they are angry and yes, they've got a lot, But there's something very specific about the thing you detailed that is that is really unnerving, Because
it's come about you. You've become the avatar for whatever problem they think, you're the solution.
Yeah, they're out of touch with reality.
Yeah.
A lot of the times, though, it is really funny because comedians are out there, the material's out there, and I love it when a comic will get some message like, oi, mate, I think you should just shut the fuck up. And then the comic will look at their page and it's the saddest thing in the world.
Yes. Yeah.
Or they're a lawyer or they're a teacher and you're oh, you've made a mistake now. Because you didn't piece together we could figure out who you are.
That's the dangers of instantaneous communication. It's this idea of whatever happened to just sitting with a thought. And maybe it was just a brain fart. Maybe it wasn't worthy of being expressed. But now it's this cycle of instantaneous reactions. We all need to weigh in immediately.
And also, we talked about this the other day. There's people who actually do go. There was a young woman who went through what I would say a bipolar episode a while ago in comedy. Yeah. You might remember. Obviously, won't mention her name, but basically, she was on Facebook. Writing to all the comedians, I'm going to do a big show, I'm going to do it in this house, there's going to be comedy in every room, I'm going to get Chris Rock, it was this and this. Yeah. It was insane, and she was clearly out of touch with reality.
Unhinged and very sad.
Clearly not okay. Yeah. And everyone was finding it hilarious. Yeah. And I remember being why are people laughing at this? She's having a breakdown. And then I
didn't remember this.
It was a while ago.
We'll talk about it more.
Yeah.
But I remember thinking, well, I can't judge those people because if they've only received one message from this woman and they don't know who this woman is.
And that was all it was.
It does seem like a funny, crazy thing.
Yeah.
I'd seen, because I'd been friends with her, the unraveling of what was going on and how insane it was. And so when I wrote to her, I'd try and be really gentle, but I'd be like, oh, why don't you have a think about it and blah, blah, blah. But the point was, it was so public. It was just it was all out there because there was no pause between her and the public and this manic idea she had.
Yeah.
So it's there's so much bizarre, not to force it back, but I feel like it is back to this danger in how we communicate with social media stuff now. Yeah. It doesn't really protect. That guy who wrote to me, he did sound mentally unstable. He did sound like he needed help. Yeah. He did sound like he probably needed to be medicated.
That's right.
And instead, he was just at a computer. And so it's
instead of seeking, because I think the real danger when someone's having a breakdown on social media is publicly is in lieu of getting actual help.
Yeah.
They're shouting out into the social media landscape, and then you've got all these people who aren't actually going to be there for this person, chiming in, going, "Oh, you're so brave, you're so full of courage," letting everyone know how fucked in the head you are.
Yeah.
And it's this kind of they get a little dopamine rush, they get an endorphin rush of oh, people care about me, but it's not actually solving anything. And so the illness exacerbates and gets more and more out of control, and it's so fucking heartbreaking to watch. It's
So this is a comedy podcast, or what is this? What are we doing? Is this a...
Well, before we let you go, Hing, is there any things that you feel like you've done, little risks that you want to tell us that have to do with danger? And not something depressing like mental illness?
Like small little things I do?
Yeah, because if you said you don't do big things anymore, apart from jumping out of helicopters...
To pause for a second, I think it's ironic that in all of these discussions of danger, we haven't actually, acknowledged the fact that most people who don't do stand-up comedy feel like what we do is
I
know the reality is we know that it's not.
Yeah.
But this is the thing. People always describe, not always, but occasionally, people outside of comedy describe doing comedy as brave or whatever.
Yeah, I've got a bit about that because I find it so hilarious. They do. They're like, "Oh, you're so brave."
But it's like bravery is about overcoming things that you personally find terrifying. If you're afraid of hats and you wear a hat, that's brave. Because, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's not what doing comedy is not brave because I don't I'm not afraid.
This
isn't scary.
Yeah, I'm enjoying this.
Yeah, but to most people, that's an insane thing to even conceive.
You know what?
You're not nervous getting up in front of hundreds of people?
It would be brave of me to go and watch someone else's show and laugh. That would be the bravest thing to do. That would be. If I went and was like, they're really trying and it's really good and I really appreciate their work. That's the bravest, really. And then to text them afterwards being like, that was great. That's actually the bravest thing I could do. But no.
So you don't feel any fear before you go on stage anymore?
You know what? Actually, I freaked out recently. I taped a TV thing a couple of days ago, and I was terrified.
Yeah.
But is it good fear? Because I get nervous, but I love it. It's good.
Oh no, I fucked myself. I fucked up the spot. What happened was they booked, and this is totally just me in my own head. They booked me to do this spot, and I was like, great. And there'd been a bit of a faff around with dates and stuff, so there was a bit of uncertainty about it. And then the day before, they were like, hey, we're going to be actually filming 2 spots of this thing, and there's only going to be 2 comics that we're filming. It's you, and it's this other comedian who's also, an Asian guy with glasses who talks about race, right? And then in my head, obviously, if we were just going on a normal night that wasn't being taped, I'd just do different jokes. I'd talk about anything else, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a TV spot, and his thing's going to go out next week, and my thing's going to go out this week, I was thinking to myself, oh no, well, I need to do the jokes that are going to best represent what I want people to think about my comedy.
Yeah, what I do.
But then literally the audience has seen 2 comedians, they're both Asian guys with glasses talking about race. It's is this all the comedy there is now? The thing that would usually, I think, be hopefully a point of difference becomes the most banal thing. And so I watch his set, he's fucking great, and he kills, and I'm sitting there just being, what the fuck? I don't know.
You should have gone with your instinct and ditched the
because I rang 4 people and asked them that, and I was like, what should I do? And they were like, look, there's X many people in the room, but there's however many people watching it, so you need to play to that audience, you can't blah blah.
And it's not airing the same time.
Yeah, and they're like, obviously you're gonna feel weird doing it, but don't worry, they'll just,
overcome it. But that's so funny.
I've watched the spot back, and it's he's not right. Michael looks off. He looks gaunt.
You can tell that man. That's one of the hardest things for me to keep remembering is you don't have a comic strip thought bubble coming out of your head at all times where everyone can read what you're thinking.
No one knows.
There's so many gigs I've done where I'm on stage in my head going, you suck, and then you listen back to it and it's you sound fine.
It's fine. Yeah, nothing. Yeah. And there's bits of it where I think I'm nervous and blah blah blah, and then everyone I've spoken to was it's fine. What do you care?
And it's that thing of you feel nervous, so it's maybe I think it's that selfish thing where it's I don't feel satisfied. But it doesn't matter because the audience doesn't care. They're still laughing. The set is still filmed. It's still going out. It's a selfish thing. Yeah, where it's but I don't feel good. I want to do it again. And they're no, we ticked every box. You got up, you did stand up. It's airing.
That's all you. Yeah, exactly. It was completely.
It's that whole thing of
completely pointless.
I haven't gotten the rush I would like to get. That's what it is.
Not to stretch this out for too long, but I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. What are we doing it for, if not for our own sense of...
I do it to give back to people.
No, fuck that. But you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
Surely both of you have done gigs where you've ostensibly killed, but you didn't walk away feeling satisfied.
Yeah, sometimes you're out of touch.
I've never killed. No. Yeah, no, totally.
You know what I mean? It's just
But you know what I found in the last... Just to round this, what I've found in the last, especially 6 months of doing comedy is something I haven't really done for years, which is just not giving a shit and not having material and just talking to people. I don't know, you maybe let this out, but you remember that night a couple of months ago, you and I were at Everly. And we were just talking to each other.
That was great.
Yeah, and it was I so much rather enjoy that than me just trotting out jokes I wrote 3 months ago where I know all the laughter and stuff. And that's so much more. Yeah, exactly.
And the audience knows it as well.
Yeah, and there's more on the line.
But it's previously I would get that rush from being well, I crafted this thing and I executed this thing and I feel good about this thing. Whereas now I'm I had a good time. That's all I care about.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
My favourite bits are when it feels like it's a one-off with the audience because you're that was so cool and that happened only because all these things fell into place.
Yeah. And like I said, the audience, it's a different register of laugh when they know that it's happening for real because they're kind of on tender hooks as well of oh shit, this isn't planned. This could go off the rails in a minute.
Absolutely.
They feel the danger.
Yeah.
Hey! Totally. Ding,
everybody.
Thank you so much. How can people find you on all the internet?
Well, if you'd like to leave a hateful comment on something I've done, you can find me on Facebook. Or you can follow me on Twitter at Hingers. And I don't know when this comes out. I don't know when this is coming out, but you can just check various comedy festivals for my shows.
Sydney Festival.
Yeah.
Sydney Comedy Fest, Melbourne Comedy Fest. Michael Hing. Look him up and write a nice message out there to compensate for all the death threats.
You know, since I've been doing this, trying to do this as a bit on stage, and it's kind of been working, sometimes hasn't been working, talking about that, people have started ironically leaving death threats on my stuff now. So it's actually had the effect of people are like, now as a joke, being like, yo, you should go to Auschwitz and gas yourself. And obviously I look at that now and I'm like, well, that's quite funny. But to anyone else, it's like, who the fuck is leaving?
Sick boy.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks,
dudes.
Bye.
Bye.